Hello. We're going to call the Cleveland Community Police Commission Budget and Grants Committee occurring on April 10th at the CPC Office at 6 o'clock p.m. We're going to call the meeting to order. We're going to conduct a quick roll call. Commissioner Adams. He's stuck in traffic. Commissioner Alana Garrett Ferguson. She asked if she can join on the phone.
She's supposed to call it, and I haven't heard it ring yet. So
okay. Commissioner Kate Kennedy.
Present.
Commissioner Pete Van Leer.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez. Present. Commissioner Wong.
Present.
Commissioner Zaid.
Present.
The quorum of commissioners needed to conduct business have been met. Overall, the meeting will review the few last items of funding process, measurable outcomes, and timeline to hopefully wrap up the 2.10 grant making and management portion that was provided by Executive Director Jason Goodrich. The first item of business will be the funding process. Should I just do a quick review and then we can say any questions or comments just so the audience will have an idea of what we're saying? So the grant process, it will possibly include a pre-survey on the website, and if possible, and this will be created to help future applicants to determine if they should apply to the CPC grant. This will help filter to ensure that proposals that meet our application criteria are submitting applications. The application process, that any proposal meeting the eligibility criteria are encouraged to apply. Starting May 15th, applications can be delivered to the CPC office located at 3631 Perkins Ave, 4th floor, Cleveland, Ohio, on an appointment basis. Please contact our phone number to schedule an appointment or submit via the online portal or Google Doc. I know we're still working out those logistical items. So our grant review procedures: complete grant applications and they should be placed on the shared drive. Committee members are allotted up to 14 days to review the grant submissions. A meeting should be called to review, deliberate, score, and vote as a committee using the due diligence evaluation form. All grant decisions should be finalized by August 31st. A summary of results presented at the September 4 CPC meeting. Are there any other suggestions or additions at this time? Ms. Williams?
I just have one quick question regarding the review process. So just regarding the review process, I just wanted to know, before the grants committee reviews, has your 14-day period to review, when the initial applications come in, did you want CPC staff to vet those? And then they get the ones who've met criteria get moved on to you, or?
That's okay with me. I will be okay with that.
I guess we could pose that to the committee. It was asked if it was okay if the staff can filter the applications to ensure that we're grading scoring the ones that meet the criteria.
Will we have access to all of the applications?
Yeah, they should be on a drive, so we will be able to see them. But I think this will help to ensure that we're utilizing our time effectively. I think that was.
Yeah, if I could ask, if I don't know if we can put them in specific folders, that would be good.
Yeah.
According maybe to the criteria, the topics, or yeah.
Okay.
So should we have a folder that has the applications that didn't meet the criteria? So there may be 4, it sounds like, based on our categories, and then maybe a folder just so we have access and at least we are on the same page if a question shall arise.
Okay, that sounds good.
to the chair. So I guess I have a question to the chair, to the staff, like, based on what we have here, what do you need that's not there, or like do you have what you need to make this move forward?
Alana, are you there?
Yes.
Hey, Alana.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
So that's my question. I'm just wondering.
So having read through this, I think, yes, if you guys are submitting this as your, as a,
Yes, we can hear you.
We hear you, yeah.
We have.
Executive director that is responding to a question to ensure that our process meets any other ideas or suggestions that they may have.
provided that, it remains a draft in submission to us and we can make a few minor edits, and have a little liberty with this to make it more streamlined, I would say. And make sure that it doesn't take the whole committee, but, if one or two of you want to work on finalizing the application form, right? And then tweaking a little bit the grading questionnaire, those things would still be advisable. But if at the end of the night, you said we're submitting this to the staff as a draft, in the format, with the intention to, make it as efficient and effective as possible, get it out to the public based on this, then yes.
So to the chair, it sounds like, I would be comfortable if we had a couple people from the committee working directly with staff to just make this happen. I think that's fine. As long as we have what we need, I think that makes sense.
To the chair, you can do it that way. You can just have a work group if, it doesn't take the whole committee, but just a few people mixed with, Shelley will be the project director, and Sarah will be on the work group, to take it to the next level.
Okay, so it sounds like there's no further questions with this section. Do you want to move to the measurable outcomes, which is the quick due diligence evaluation form? I don't know if you say that specifically to this whole document or just that specific section.
To the chair, to the whole document. If you want to make any final changes to the document that are absolutely critical, or identify things that you are saying, absolutely 100% this cannot be changed, then that's fine. But otherwise, I think we have enough to get started. So establishing the work group and voting this into play would be my counsel for this evening, and you can move forward.
Okay, so with that advice, we've had some opportunity to review it. Is there any other suggestions based on the document that we would like to make any further modifications?
This rating scale, I don't know if a 1 to 4 will provide enough differentiation. We want to do like a wider scale, 1 to 10, so we can. It's just too crouched, right?
Yeah, okay. But I think that's something that they can have a little flexibility with.
So what are we, what are we commenting on in the document then?
So, hopefully the prior sections we had a lot of discussion with in the previous meetings. So it's really the funding process, the form, if there's any other questions or something you want to take out, as well as the grantee measurable outcomes. Overall, the questions is in alignment with like the rubric overall. So is there anything that you would like to add? Because we had this document for a few weeks now.
think just some wording issues.
Yeah, like,
So the chair where it says fiscal agents can allot up to a 10% service fee, I think that's a little high. I think we need to figure out what the average fee is and use the correct language or exact.
so what would you,
Like, I think when I spoke to a few people that issue grants, they said, I think like 3 to 5% or a flat fee. So I think we need to like maybe clarify that, but I'm thinking that maybe the staff can do that in the process of getting the applications together and things like that.
okay, so we can circle that as something, that's fine.
I think point C, I understand what you are meaning by point C, but it might be clear, write that clearer. You just mean just, or something like organizations based within the city. I think that probably, do we need legal boundaries or citizens who live within those same residents who live within those? It just might be clear, who are based in the city of Cleveland and who, or residents who live in the city of Cleveland. I'm not sure, like, legal boundaries might be confusing for people.
I think it was just saying the geographic region.
Right, it should be geographic, not legal boundaries, right?
Well, yeah, it could be geographic.
Or just, I think city of Cleveland, would that be clear enough? You have to be in Cleveland,
Cleveland proper.
yeah.
Yeah.
What does Cleveland proper mean?
The map and,
Within the municipal boundary.
yeah.
Right. Say that would be, yeah. So I think legal is a little confusing.
Huh?
Yeah. Do you have any issues with that, Pete?
No, the chair, that sounds fine with me.
Okay.
I do wish in A that we can either underline these things, because nowhere, or if it was put somewhere else, that we can clearly designate community-based violence prevention, restorative justice, and mediation programs, because it's contained within that quote. It might be a little bit hard. Is it mentioned somewhere
So-
else? Like,
Repeat it again.
so in section 3A.
Yeah.
We're making grants for quote, community-based violence prevention, restorative justice, and mediation programs, reduce the need for police. I think it just, somewhere else, I think if we can highlight that, maybe in a bullet point, it might be easier.
Yeah, so originally it was bullet pointed, but, the committee wanted it like this. I mean, we can put it in bullet points.
To the chair.
Mhm.
I just wanted to know, I thought that in the last committee meeting, someone was supposed to come back with definitions.
So Pete did. Yeah, so we can bullet point that and put the definitions and that can be clear. So would you like to read the definitions that you presented at this?
Sure. Let me find it.
Yeah, but overall, this should been, we've had several meetings on this, so these items should be, at least to our satisfaction. So it's really the process, the measurable outcomes, and the timeline that we're really reviewing. And we want to ensure that we're not going back and forth, because in the prior meetings, they were bullet pointed and then we decided this, so we don't want to keep going back and forth.
Just be easier for the person.
Give me one.
I agree. We can put it in bullet
Or
points.
we can put it like up here, like you quote it in 3, but you can put it in 2 also, in bullet points with the.
Yeah,
We
and
have to work
also
on this one.
when we put it in the online portal, it's gonna be a little different. So just to clarify, to ensure that we're on the same page, when we have information sessions, we want to ensure that as a committee and as a commission, we are all aware of, what the definitions are for the various criteria that is outlined in Charter 115. We want to ensure that we're all on the same page for the eligibility, what our goals are, funding levels, and just the general process. If people ask, right? More than likely, when I reviewed and I sent a prior email, that when it's on the website, it's gonna be bullet pointed because one, we have Cleveland literacy levels. Two, a lot of people are looking very quickly. They want the information fast and to start applying, to ensure that they start applying. So for it to be, most reasonable, it has to be clear, concise, and, easy, right? So this is mainly for us to ensure that we're on the same page, that if any questions arises within the community or in those info sessions, that we know those particular questions from the process. If somebody asks what they're gonna be graded on, well, their application is gonna be scored on, we know the different criteria, right? Some example questions, right? Some examples for what we're looking for in a report. Commissioner Adams.
To the chair, so I understand the need for maybe laying some of this stuff out more, but I do feel like with the information sessions, when we make the announcement, I think that the three areas of the community-based violence prevention, restorative justice, and the mediation programs are probably going to be repeated and printed, several times. So it's not like this is the only place that they're going to see it. So I think it would be okay. I would suggest leaving it, but if people feel strongly about the bullet points, I don't see a problem with it. But I do want us to just remember that they're going to hear this in meetings, they're going to see this in several other places. So it's not like this will be the only place they'll get it.
So would you like to read the definition so we're on the same page? And then we'll proceed forward with the process, the measurable outcomes, and timeline. Because if there's no further questions, we're going to move it up, and then we're going to create a work group and start really pushing this forward. Thank you so much, Commissioner P.
Sure. So I just did some quick research, and I just forwarded it to you, Shelley, as well. But community-based restorative justice, the definition that I pulled together is restorative justice is an approach to justice that seeks healing by centering on a meeting or meetings between the community member who has been harmed and the person who is responsible for the harm, with the goal of having the person who committed the offense take responsibility for their action and to give them an opportunity to redeem themselves and to discourage them from causing further harm. For the community member who has been harmed, the goal of the process is to give them an active role or agency in the process and to reduce feelings of anxiety and powerlessness. Restorative justice can be an alternative or a complement to the traditional criminal legal system. And I included a link there of something I found from online, our Casey Foundation, that seemed to have a good definition. Community-based violence prevention is an approach that uses evidence-informed strategies to reduce violence through tailored, community-centered initiatives. These multidisciplinary strategies engage individuals and groups to prevent and disrupt cycles of violence and retaliation, and establish relationships between individuals and community assets to deliver services that save lives, address trauma, provide opportunity, and improve the physical, social, and economic conditions that drive violence. And that was from a Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Affairs request for proposals, and I included a link in the email. And then there was also, I found a grant program from Governor DeWine's administration, and some of the things that included as eligible for their community-based violence prevention grants were wraparound services for child victims of violence and their families, peer and community support programs that target immediate violence reduction and provide resources for those most likely to be involved in violence, civilian-based crisis response teams that support individuals undergoing behavioral health crises, focused deterrence programs that discourage specific high-risk offenders from committing crimes while also offering resources and support, hospital-based violence intervention programs that focus on reducing retaliatory violence and preventing re-injury by engaging injured victims of violent crime while they're recovering in the hospital. And there was a link there that I included. The third one, community-based mediation. Community mediation offers constructive processes for resolving differences and conflicts between individuals, groups, and organizations. Participants control the process and create their own alternatives to avoidance, destructive confrontation, prolonged litigation, or violence. Community mediation offers participants an opportunity to discuss their concerns and needs. It also strengthens relationships, builds connections between people and groups, and creates processes that make communities work for everyone. Community mediators support participants through difficult conversations, providing a safe environment to discuss the participants' needs, while participants retain decision-making authority. Community mediation centers offer a variety of conflict intervention processes, depending on the needs of the participants and the capacity of the center, that support participants in addressing their own and their community's unique conflict needs. And I also had a link there that I found online. I think I drew that entirely from that one link. So that's what I found.
Mhm.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
So did you send that to all the?
Committee or?
I think I sent it to the whole committee, and I will forward it again to
Because I
everybody
know you
else on the
sent it to
committee.
me. Okay, okay. So, thank you so much for that research. Is there any other questions pertaining to that?
To the chair, Mike, I think I like those definitions that Pete dug up. I was wondering if you wouldn't want to overwhelm people too much. I mean, could we perhaps maybe put those on like a different page, and then there could be like a hyperlink, and then you could like click on the restorative justice, and then all of the stuff that Pete laid out, like the definitions, the source, examples, and then you can click on the page, it'll have this description, and then you can go back to the application. But I wouldn't want to put all that on the application.
Okay, so I think we can do that with a work group. I think that's a
Yeah.
great starting point. And then, because it is a Google Doc, so we have to see how it will, the layout and the feasibility. And like you were saying, you don't want it to be too much information. So maybe it can be a link, but I think that's something that the work group can work with staff over. Any further questions?
If it's possible, sorry. If it's possible, I think, if we can use those as guidelines, if it was a little bit dense, if we can even develop a
Something more concise.
that might be more connected to the immediate needs of Cleveland, that'd be great. And to differentiate, I think that the thing is that there's overlap, but you may want to help the person understand which bucket that they would fall in their project. It obviously has overlap. If someone does something that crosses over, which one they should pick.
Ms. Lou?
Don't miss me, I'm right here. I do like Commissioner Adams' idea. However, we do have a lot of people, they are still used to print the documents out, to read it on the paper, then start working. So I think we can use a link. The main page will list those things, put a link. So it will still print it out as appendix or something, index, whatever, at the end. But for people who like to just work on applications online, they can click or touch that link. It would bring them to another page. But for the people who wants to use paperwork to do the work, I think we should let them to see the whole thing. So I recommend all the things Commissioner Pete offered. They are still very valuable for the people who are not familiar with these things. If we put them at the end, so when you print it out, you have the main pages to explain your process, your goal, for them to put in information, this and that. Then at the end, you have just, you could either call it appendix or whatever, to include all those explanations, examples. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or concerns?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have to make this accessible to people that aren't necessarily, if there's a digital divide or don't know how to, don't know to click on something to get. We probably could just have an addendum page, right, at the end to explain that.
Okay. So my measurable outcomes, it seems like no further suggestions or questions. Okay. Timeline, compliance and evaluation.
We have the start date of the application. What is the end date?
Just July 1st.
July 1st. It's not written here. Is it?
It's in the timeline.
It's right here.
Oops,
we may want to put it here too. I mean, I know that it seems like redundant, but some people may miss, you may want to put,
So this is gonna be compiled, so this will not be given, this is just to ensure that we have all the material to give to the staff so they could start creating the Google Doc or I know they were doing research with portal, so I don't know if we're gonna be able to use that, but whatever, mainly electronic, so there will be some paper versions, but whatever electronic, so we can take this and place it on that, and then we have all the information.
Madam Chair, just
Yes,
kind of
ma'am.
give a little bit of update on that.
Mhm.
And so what we're gonna do is go Google,
Yeah.
Google Pages or Google Papers,
Google Form.
Yeah.
Google Forms.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Google Forms initially, because all of the other, they require you to take their training. And so, and it's costly. And so we can create the Google Forms, create this document on Google Forms. So we're gonna go with that, and just initially, unless, until you guys decide something different, but that'll get us started.
For this year, okay.
So yeah, so I think that was a pertinent piece of information. So this would be transferred into Google Forms. So we will have like applications, as we know that there's some people that may request it. So that's why we place, so in the information sessions, if somebody requested, we may have a few copies, but that they can, make appointments if they need further assistance and they need to drop it off. That way we know this procedure as well. Okay, so I move that the Budget and Grants Committee accepts these Cleveland Community Police Commission grant as a draft and accept it with the flexibility to allow the staff to start creating the grant application as well as any additional materials needed for the grant process. May I have a second?
I second.
Any questions? Are you ready for the question? Are you ready for the question? You still gotta do it. Any further debate? Hence none. We're gonna conduct a vote. Commissioner Adams.
Aye.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson.
Aye.
Commissioner Kate Kennedy.
Aye.
Commissioner Pete Van Leer.
Aye.
Commissioner Adriana Rodriguez, aye. Well, let me know. I'm gonna take mine back. Okay, Commissioner Wong.
Aye.
Commissioner Zayed.
Aye.
So just for record keeping purposes, I withdrew my vote to ensure that we didn't have the 7. Motion carried. The next item of business is the grant application. Hopefully you guys reviewed it. Is there anything that you would like to add so that we can keep it in mind so that the staff, when they're creating the application, will include these items? And I would like to thank Commissioner Pete for sending that. I think that application is a great place to start. It's very beginner friendly, so we have to highlight neighborhood connections, because hopefully we will model our application after that. Sometimes the city and foundations, their application can be quite, yeah, they have a lot of information that they require and questions. I think this is a straightforward application. Hopefully we reviewed it over the last few days a week to ensure that we can add anything. Commissioner Pete?
So to the chair, this is, the idea would be that the staff would also take this and adapt it to our needs, and that seems good to me.
So the only thing that I could think of was just a capacity assessment, just a brief description of the organization or ability to complete project, So, and I put it down, I put it down, so I'll give it to you. Yeah, so organizations with 501c3 status to include their mission statement, key staff, length of service and qualifications for performing the key tasks for which they are responsible, list of program and services, and the same thing for non-501c3 status entities to provide history if they have it. I think that will help determine and help ensure that we are doing our due diligence with awarding grant money. Commissioner Zaid?
So we adopted this draft. Would that mean, you remember earlier I spoke to you about possibly letting the intermediary organizations ask for more funding over the 50,000? So since we adopted this, they would not be able to do that, or?
To the chair, I believe you adopted it with flexibility, so, we can have that conversation in the work group. And also be advised, we still have to wait for our official legal in writing ruling. I'm pressing to get that as soon as possible, but that may change a few things in here. That's why the flexibility is also appropriate. So we can revisit that question when that comes back about what additional hurdles we'll have to undertake if we go over the 50,000 mark.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Adams?
To the chair, under the group or organization history, would it be possible to maybe add something where we can know, like, when the group actually registered with the government, like their organization?
So if they're a 501c3, they will have it in their, like, what you mean, their constitution and
Like,
bylaws?
are they going to, like,
990?
I just would want to know how long the group is officially, because, we don't want to get into a place where when you ask something like, how did you come together, or how long have you been together, it could be possible that we met to talk about stuff, and maybe we were, talking about things and maybe doing things, but we weren't official. So it just would be nice to know maybe like how long they've been officially incorporated or registered.
Is that given in the IRS documents? It should be.
So,
If it's already somewhere else, then we don't need it.
so normally when you complete a grant application, you complete the information and you complete like a budget, and that's normally submitted. So I know that we're doing a contract phase, so maybe in that contract phase, we can start requesting possibly 990s or things like that. I'm not sure so it's really hard to say because we're not sure of how many organizations or groups are gonna apply. And especially if they're smaller, do you want all of the 990s and all of the articles of incorporation? Or do you want those where we have reviewed, we really like their application and the materials and the budget that they propose, and then that's the next layer to do our due diligence, or like before the contract phase, to ensure that we have the articles of incorporation and the 990s and things like that. Hold on, I'm gonna ask Ms. Williams, since she's staff, or Mr. Goodrick.
I would recommend we only do it with the finalists, so you don't need them to submit, everything on the planet if you're not going to consider them. So when they get to the final, but the question will be in the application, what was your originating date or your start date? That's simple, but, to prove that, when you go to verification phase for your finalists, then you start to dig a little deeper.
This is a question for all the commissioners. We do have a lots of grassroots organizations. They have done lots of field work in the community, but they themselves may not be 501c3. However, they do have a fiscal agent is. So I think we should not really put in certain information to make them confused that, they cannot apply.
So in this document, so I know the community doesn't have this document. In the document, it says that individuals possibly, once we understand what the city, because these are tax dollars, so it is a tentative framework that we are allowing individuals with fiscal agents to apply to ensure that we're doing our due diligence with tax dollars, as well as providing that opportunity, like you stated. But that's still pending based on whatever legal advice, because they are tax dollars. But that is our intention at this point. Any other further questions that we would like to have on the application? Would we like to ask, I remember prior that we asked a question about different funding sources, about supporting the project. Is that something that we would like to add a question? To ensure sustainability of the project? We mentioned it. We don't have to. I just wanted to bring.
Can you clarify?
So I think it was the last conversation, and we stated that if it's beyond 50,000, we want to ensure that they have other supporting services. I think we just put out a random number to support. If they have a larger amount, to ensure that whatever money that we're allocated, that it would be able to sustain. But that was just thinking off the top of my head. Commissioner Kennedy.
So I remember that as well. My recommendation would be that we ask for a summary of other funders, maybe not necessarily for the project, because the project might be new, and I think it's okay if they don't have any other funding for the specific project. But it would be nice to know, based on like what they ask for, if they have other funders, right? Like if they've never gotten money before and they're asking for $50K, then that's something that we should probably know. But if they've never had funding before and they're asking for $5K, then I think that's like good information to know too. So just some of their funding history might be helpful, but I don't want it, at the same time, I don't want it to dissuade anyone from applying.
Yeah, I wonder if it's how we frame it. But I know we have great staff that can put that in a great way. So I think that's something to note as well. I think those are really all the points that I have. Any other points? No? Okay, so I'm okay with.
So, to the chair, before you break, just, it would be nice to know who would like to be on the work group. So work groups can't vote. And the heavier they are, the harder it is to do the work. So I would ask that, you pick the best of you that you feel are really committed to this. And we'll get this scheduled here probably before the end of the week to start getting this process finalized and moving forward. So, ideally 2, maybe 3 of you who would like to come in and continue. And then the next question is, do you want to empower the work group when it's done to go right to print, or do you want it to come back to the committee for final review? So that's a question for consideration as well.
I thought that we had also proposed that the work group can come from other commissioners. I mean, so can we just map out the skills that are needed to get this deliverable made? Probably some writing skills, right? And I just know that there are other commissioners with grant making skills that probably even more.
And to the chair, that most of the writing and stuff will come from the staff. Like the commissioners who are joining the work group will just be mostly advisory. Like there's not going to be a high work expectation for the commissioners out of this. It's just, just kind of advisory to make sure staff is following the spirit of what you guys adopted this evening.
To the chair, I'd be happy to work on that if you want.
Sounds good.
To the chair, I would also like to be in the work group.
Okay. Commissioner Adams?
I am going to decline for personal reasons.
Okay.
One more? Okay, two is fine.
I'm okay with those two. I gave my suggestions. I have trust the commission to help. Okay, so the last question is if we should bring it back to the committee. Cool. Tristan?
Who were the two commissioners who volunteered? I'm sorry, just,
Commissioner.
oh, yeah.
So it sounds like to the chair, is there,
Or we probably could just have written, just an email,
Just-
just so we know, this is the website, just review the application. I don't think we need a formal meeting. Any comments or concerns could be communicated to.
Let's just keep in contact with each other.
Yeah, so this isn't like a farewell. There are things that need to, like the application as well as, I know that budget probably is gonna be approved pretty soon, so hiring of staff as well as, maybe a bank account. So this is just like a mini intermission until we come back and, start working those, community info sessions. We probably should set up a committee for that as well. But that can be brought to, the full commission as well, in the report on Wednesday. So those community info sessions, so we're still gonna be doing business as well as, the finalization of the press release to start.
so to the chair, for clarity on this process with the application, it'll be clear, this committee is empowering the work group and the staff to finalize that. With,
And then send it probably by
Send it.
email, and then if we have any suggestions, but I don't think it needs to be a formal meeting because, hypothetically, we should have reviewed Neighborhood Connections application as well as brought back any comments or suggestion in this meeting, as well as any questions about this process or anything like that. For the majority of it is gonna be on the Google form, so it's gonna be divided.
So to the chair, just here's what I wrote down off the top of my head is what some of the objectives will probably be, right? So we'll make clear and concise program goals. So we'll take this and narrow it down so that we can get it, to the level where people are out there. Clear and concise score sheet. We'll do the website creation, the application creation. We'll get print mock-ups ready to go for the print material to support this. And planning of some workshops, which will, I imagine this committee will be the primary drivers of the workshop. So we'll get a schedule out, determine how many workshops we want and who can be involved in helping get the word out. So that's just some, off the top of my head objectives you can expect from the work group most likely. And then it sounds like you guys are once we get these things done, and everyone's on the same page, we'll be able to go to work. And that's essential because if we're sticking to this timeline, the sooner the better.
So, and after that point, we're moving this as a committee. Do we need to just do that on email? We can move it to the full commission for approval.
To the chair, I know that it mentioned full commission in that initial timeline, but I think that was for if we were adopting rules. I don't think we adopted rules that are going into the rules manual. We just adopted guidelines for this year. So, I don't think your guidelines need to go before the full commission. That's a choice for you to make as a chair, and you'll have co-chairs Wednesday, so you can have that discussion on process with the co-chairs, but it will slow down if you guys do decide to go back and have some type of formal approval from the rest of the commission. Then the most likely time you'll be able to do that is the end of April, which may slow things down a bit. So, you're just following the charter, so there's really nothing to approve. We have the money. It has to go out per the law, so you guys are doing the work of that. I don't think there is really anything to approve.
Well, maybe just so they're aware of, the eligibility requirements as well as that, the staff. But I think that could be in the report out. of that the staff has certain criteria that they're working on the application and things like that. And we have things in place, just so we're all on the same page.
The 2.10 will have to be going to the full commission at some point.
We didn't do a 2.10 right now, so, I mean, we don't.
Or I mean, whatever
So
we adopt here is. it
So
gonna go
to the
through?
chair, what she's referring to is in the rules committee, there's a section for rules, right? So what is the rules of grant making that we're going to follow every year in our book, right? So that's what I initially presented to this group was, here's the 5 things you do, and here's the cycle you do it on every year. If you want to revisit that, you can, or you can put it back to the rules committee. Either way, it works. But the more important thing right now is to get this year's program going because we're already at the end of the first quarter of the year. So my issue is expediency, so we can meet our commitment to the public.
So yeah, I just wanted to follow up that this was based off what was provided, and we provided a little bit more in depth. So just for like the rubric, just so we all are on the same page. And yeah, so it's after the headlines that was provided by you. I don't have any further business. If it's none, we can adjourn the meeting at 6:52 p.m.
Because it's, on the agenda, so we just adjourned early.
Did you get